The rain was coming down so hard that the streets of Chicago looked like rivers, but 24-year-old Grace Carter kept pedaling. Her fingers were numb, her shoes were soaked through, and the small delivery bag strapped to her back contained a dinner worth more than she would earn in 3 days. She had no idea that the man waiting behind the door was about to test her in a way that would change both of their lives forever. Grace wasn't supposed to be working that night. Her younger brother, Caleb, had been sick for days, and she had promised herself she would stay home with him. But the rent was due in 48 hours, the electricity bill was already overdue, and the pharmacy had called twice about the medicine she couldn't afford. So she kissed Caleb's forehead, told him she would be back soon, and stepped into the storm. If you believe that kindness can change a person's life and that everyone deserves a second chance, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. Across the city, inside a 42nd-floor penthouse overlooking downtown Chicago, Billionaire CEO Nathaniel Brooks sat alone at a dining table that could have seated 20 people. At 38, Nathaniel had built Brooks Technologies from a tiny startup into a company worth billions. Newspapers called him brilliant, ruthless, and impossible to impress. Employees feared disappointing him. Investors admired his instincts. But behind the expensive suits and glass walls, Nathaniel carried a wound he never discussed. Years earlier, his father had taught him that people always helped others when they expected something in return. Nathaniel had believed it until the day his own father abandoned the family during their hardest financial crisis. Since then, Nathaniel trusted numbers more than people. That evening, he had an unusual idea. He wanted to test the character of someone who had absolutely nothing to gain from him. Instead of ordering from his usual private restaurant service, he placed an anonymous delivery order under a false name. He left an expensive watch on the hallway table, placed an envelope containing $5,000 beside it, and deliberately left the penthouse door slightly open. Then he waited. When Grace finally arrived, she stood outside the apartment trembling from the cold. She checked the delivery address twice before knocking. No one answered. She pushed the door open slightly and called out that the food had arrived. That's when she saw the envelope. $5,000. For a moment, Grace simply stared. That money could pay the rent. It could buy Caleb's medicine. It could put groceries in their empty refrigerator. It could even give them a few weeks without fear. Nathaniel watched silently from behind a partially closed interior door. Grace picked up the envelope, but instead of putting it in her pocket, she noticed the name printed on the receipt. It belonged to an elderly customer at another apartment building, someone who had mistakenly been listed as the recipient. Grace immediately realized the envelope had probably been placed there intentionally or accidentally. She put it back exactly where she found it. Then she noticed the expensive watch. Grace looked at it for several seconds. She knew enough about watches to understand that it was worth far more than anything she owned. She could have walked away with both items and nobody would have known. But she didn't. She simply left the food on the table, took a photograph of the envelope and watch for proof, and waited. Nathaniel stepped out. Grace's face changed when she realized she had been watched. Nathaniel expected anger, embarrassment, or perhaps an excuse. Instead, he saw exhaustion. Real exhaustion. The kind that came from carrying too many responsibilities for too long. He asked why she hadn't taken the money. Grace explained that if someone lost that much money, they deserved the chance to get it back. She said she had bills too, but she couldn't solve her problems by creating someone else's. Those words hit Nathaniel harder than he expected. Then Grace's phone rang. It was Caleb. She answered quickly, and Nathaniel saw her expression collapse as she listened. Her brother's fever had gotten worse. Grace apologized repeatedly because she couldn't leave immediately. She still had 2 deliveries remaining. Nathaniel finally understood something. She hadn't been honest because she was trying to impress him. She had been honest while desperate. He asked her why she kept working when she was clearly exhausted. Grace quietly explained that their parents were gone, Caleb was still in school, and she had promised their mother years ago that she would never let her little brother feel alone. She worked mornings at a bakery, afternoons delivering food, and nights cleaning offices whenever she could find extra shifts. Nathaniel felt something inside him break. He remembered being 21 and watching his mother count coins on a kitchen table after his father disappeared. He remembered promising himself that he would become powerful enough that nobody could ever make him feel helpless again. But somewhere along the way, he had confused power with distance. Nathaniel didn't tell Grace who he really was. Instead, he drove her home himself, using a regular car, and insisted that she take the evening off. He then quietly arranged for a doctor to visit Caleb. The next morning, Grace received a call, offering her a management position at a local delivery company owned by Brooks Technologies. The salary was enough to transform her life, but she almost rejected it because she thought someone had made a mistake. Then Nathaniel appeared. He told her the truth about the test. Grace was furious at first. She told him that poor people weren't experiments and that desperation wasn't entertainment. Nathaniel accepted every word without defending himself. Then he admitted something he had never told anyone. He had spent years testing people because he was terrified of trusting them. Grace's anger slowly turned into understanding. Nathaniel offered her the job, but not as charity. He wanted her to help redesign the company's delivery programs so workers like her could receive better pay, medical support, emergency assistance, and flexible schedules. Grace accepted. Months later, the program became one of the most successful parts of the company. Hundreds of delivery workers received benefits that had once seemed impossible. Grace eventually became the director of community operations, but she never forgot the rainy night that started everything. And Nathaniel changed too. He stopped measuring people by their bank accounts, their resumes, or what they could do for him. He learned that sometimes the richest person in a room was the one carrying the greatest burden without asking anyone for help. One evening, Nathaniel visited Grace and Caleb's new apartment. Caleb was healthy again. There were books on the shelves, warm lights in the windows, and a photograph of their mother above the fireplace. Nathaniel looked at the picture and quietly said that he wished his father had taught him what Grace had taught him. Grace smiled and reminded him that people can learn at any age. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe so these stories can reach more people who need a little hope. And before the story ends, leave a comment saying, kindness is always worth it if you believe one good choice can change an entire life. Nathaniel had started the night believing he was testing a delivery girl. By the end, he realized the truth. She had never been the one being tested. He was. And for the first time in his life, the billionaire who thought he had everything finally discovered what money could never buy: trust, compassion, and the courage to become a better human being. The greatest wealth isn't what we can afford. It's what we are willing to give when nobody is watching.